another rousing week. Hey, everyone, what's going on? Thank you for downloading the show. Retro Gamers, Anthony's over there.
Anthony, and now, Larry here.
Wow. All right. Well, that's what kind of week I had, folks.
Well, I have no words for you. Don't try to impersonate me. You'll fail miserably.
That'll be our Halloween episode. We'll just pretend to be each other. What's going on?
Not much. How are you? Apparently,
I've
drunk.
Have had better days.
Well, too much sauce.
But yeah, so we're back here, and some new news. That's kind of old news. That's kind of related to new news. I got us kind of back up and running with this show, which I'll explain in a moment. Unless your head's just exploded from what I just said. So let's kind of let's kick it off real quick the way we normally do. I know you're waiting to do the live feed, if you will, of Shining Force 2. You have any idea when you think?
I think I want to settle on a date now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, anything? Have you figured out maybe how you want to do it and anything like that? When?
Yeah. I'm thinking right now. My plan is going to be that's Saturday, October 15th.
Ooh.
I'm picking a day.
Mark your tentative calendars with us.
Yeah, for all three of you who want to see this. Let's say Saturday, October 15th at 8 a.m. Pacific time.
There you go. So 8, 9, 10.
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Time.
We'll do that.
11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
I will be live playing the end of Shining Force 2, which will officially, well, not only have me finish a game I started 25 years ago-ish, but it'll also officially kick off your Castlevania 2 quest.
Yes, which, again, I'm debating whether I just might as well wait for the mini-NES or just download it on the thing, on the Wii U. I'll figure that out later. And if I wait, I'll probably do something else in the meantime. And I can't wait for that. It's going to be fun. It's either going to last maybe like 20 minutes or like 9 hours, depending how good you are with the game.
Yeah, I haven't decided yet how long it's going to take, because I'm wondering if we do a live, I'll do it live on Facebook, but I wonder if we also record a show while doing it.
We'll talk about that later. I think we can figure something out with that. So,
yeah, we'll see.
With that being said, speaking of the mini-NES, so if you go back a few episodes, where are we at? What is this, like episode 10 or 12 into the second season? I don't even know where our seasons start. But
I don't know either. I lost count. Whatever episode this is.
Honestly, right? Just count back, and we talked about, because we were about to go on to record, and all of a sudden Nintendo announced the Nintendo Classic Edition, the mini-NES, if you will. Basically just 30 games packed into literally a mini-NES. You plug into your TV, HDMI, and it brings you back to the days of yore.
I love Yore.
Oh, totally. Yore, right
Great
next
place.
to Parts Unknown. And, I mean, it's awesome because Nintendo's never really put out anything like this. There's, as we've talked about before, there's been tons of these plug-and-plays, but finally Nintendo's jumping on the bandwagon, and from the list of games and all the features and stuff, and new ones kind of are coming out, it's going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be a huge seller. This thing may sell better than the Wii U.
Yeah, it's funny because you would think, again, and Nintendo's stance has always been like they're always aiming at the gamer, whereas Microsoft and Sony are they're multimedia consoles, so
Mm-hmm.
like especially Xbox now hooks up to your computer if you have a PC with Windows, and like they want it to be like a major multimedia system in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo just wants you to play games.
Pretty much,
they're
yeah.
always going after the gamer, and considering the fact that a lot of their core gamers were us when we we were in the 80s when we bought the NES and everything like that. It's nice to see that they're actually appealing to our generation while trying to bring in a new generation and showing, hey, you know what, these games that you guys weren't born to play are actually pretty awesome. So
Totally, and even like I mentioned before, the mini-NES, not for the hardcore gamer. It's for, like I kind of mentioned, the casual gamer, especially those who don't play games now but remember playing Nintendo, or those of us have children who want to introduce, what we used to play as kids. Because these games on the mini NES, I dare you, they hold up to games of today. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, the difficulty levels alone, I mean, if anything, these games, a lot of the games that are going to be on this system are harder than most of the games you'll play today. A lot of them, I've said this before on this podcast, that my issue with today's games are you can kind of just work your way through them. There's not terribly complicated. They just look really pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's what it is. It's like, oh, look how awesome the graphics are. You go, yeah, that's great. I was like, but give me a challenge. I mean, I can only play Dark Souls so many times.
Yeah, right. But now, and this is with the mini NES, and just a couple of days ago, you posted, we posted on the Retro Gamer Facebook page, facebook.com/RetroGamersPodcast, that now Nintendo of Japan is putting out the Nintendo Classic Mini Famicom.
Yeah, I don't know if we missed that when the NES one was announced.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we did either, but considering the fact that they're releasing it the same day, I have a feeling that this was already in the works. It's just that we didn't get word of it.
Either it was well in the works, or they just, all of a sudden, they saw the popularity of how, I'm assuming how the praise that the mini NES Classic is getting, that they could probably turn it around. Because all it is just a bunch of emulators jammed into a little, case that looks like the Famicom, which we'll get into in a moment.
Well, and to be honest, I mean, if you look at the, we'll talk about the games on the Famicom now, but it's pretty much the same. I mean, there are only a handful of games that are different between the two. So yeah, it's interesting enough that I will get my hands on it.
Oh yeah, totally.
I want both.
Totally. The mini everyone's calling me. The mini Famicom, I think, is going to be for the hardcore gamer.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, because if you remember back in the day, if you wanted to play Famicom, you had to, you had to import it from Japan or find a little shop in, the Lower East Side somewhere or something like that was selling these imported systems. Or I believe at some point there was it may not have been for the NES, it may have been for the SNES and Super Famicom, that there was a converter that you could plug into it. I think it was the Super Nintendo that allowed that.
I think, because the Nintendo, if you remember, I mean, we all are familiar with the gray NES carts, but the Famicom carts were like half the size, where the Super NES and the Super Famicom, were kind of somewhat the same design, so I think you were able to get away with a converter, plus the way you had to push down on it probably screwed up the converter on the Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. So, this will be like this will be the, well, I mean, it's not, I was going to say this will be the first opportunity for people in America to play this, but it's going to only be offered in Japan. However, considering the marvel that is the internet and whatnot, I mean, if you haven't bought a bunch of Famicom cartridges at this point in time on eBay or something like that, here's an opportunity to import something that's going to have 30 ready, 30
totally
Famicom games.
Not only that, you just go to, Amazon.co.jp and, you pay a little extra in the
exactly
importing, but
here it is in a nice little package, even though, like I said, it's only about maybe 7 or 8 games that are different. I
would say, like a good maybe third. I mean, even if we stretch it that far. Let's get into it first, before we get into the games. Talk about because there's some stats on here that are kind of interesting. Not major differences, but enough I think is interesting on what they're doing with the mini Famicom. Now, I'm working off of the official Nintendo website, Japanese website, so I'm tiptoeing through this here. First of all, it's going to run on a USB AC adapter. Now, I don't know if that's just a thing they do over there, or they just figured to make it easy, and because it's separately, I think you can separately buy a USB adapter for it, or an AC adapter, I should say. So they're probably thinking that you plug it in, because kind of like a Roku or something, you plug the HDMI in on your TV, and pretty much every new TV has USB outlets anyway. I guess you plug the USB into the TV, and that will give the power to the Famicom.
Yeah, Which is interesting because I mean, most people. I think most people at this point do have newer TVs that have a USB port. So,
but that's it because that's not on the mini NES. So that's an interesting.
No, the mini NES is HDMI.
No, I'm talking about the plug, the power adapter.
Oh, the power. Oh, yeah. The power adapter.
The power. That's how it runs the power on the mini Famicom. It's going to be through USB.
Okay, and the NES is just going to be a regular plug.
I imagine, yeah, because I didn't see anything about USB.
Oh, interesting.
So, mini Famicom's going to run like the other one, 720p, 480p. Now, when I first saw the picture, I didn't really see the controllers. I mean, the controllers, everyone who's listening to this podcast, I think, knows what the Famicom looks like. And if you haven't, you can definitely look it up real quick. Just do a Google search. What was cool about the Famicom, which came out in the 80s, was that, like the Wii has the microphone on the controller, the Famicom also had a microphone on the controller, and the first thing I thought about was, are they going to incorporate that into this retro mini system? And from the looks of it, they're going to, which for one game in particular, if it works, is going to be wild.
So, which game?
Oh, okay. I thought you knew. So basically, the Japanese version of The Legend of Zelda. What happens is, well, let's think about the American version. The I can't remember the name, but you know the things that look like rabbits in the game?
Yes.
Okay. To defeat them, you would use the whistle in the American version.
Right.
Okay. In the Famicom,
no, the things that look like rabbits, you would use arrows.
Well, I think whistles and arrows. I think it's a combination of both. Because if you use the whistle, because in the instruction booklet, it would tell you something along. And I'm doing this off the top of my head. In the American instruction booklet, it would tell you like make a loud noise to scare them off. The only way to do that in the game was with the whistle.
Right.
But in the Japanese version, the way to defeat those characters is you yelled into the controller.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's where it came from. So. And Zelda is going to be one of the 30 games in the Japanese Famicom. And I'm looking at the controllers here, and it does have the mic ports. It always was on Player 2. And that's like the first, if I get this, that's the first thing I'm testing out.
It's the first thing you're trying. Well, you're going to have to play a little ways.
Exactly,
through,
yeah.
Zelda, unless you go straight to level 6.
Yeah, right.
5 or 6, and those things start showing up.
The fun part was with the original Famicom, the controllers were hardwired onto the system. And they were so short, the wires from the controller to the system, because we're all used to putting our systems by the TV. I guess in Japan, you put it like right on your lap. Like that's how short the wires were. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the same here.
I would really hope not, considering the fact that most people, the TVs are really far away.
Yeah, pretty much, because they're really big now. And of course, with the Famicom, the start and select buttons were only on Player 1, so that's just kind of interesting to see. Beyond,
well, I mean, it's logical. I mean, if you think about it, you don't really need them on the second player.
True. But the Player 2 has the mic, so that's kind of weird. And that was even from the original system. Beyond that, everything else is pretty much the same. It's a much smaller version than the original. There's a lot of other things in Japanese, so I have no idea what else this thing may have. But let's.
The USB. Just so you know, the USB does have an AC adapter. Like, you can plug the USB into an AC.
Gotcha. Now, I wonder, for the Famicom or for the mini NES? Or both?
For the Famicom.
Okay, like the mini NES...
Well, both have AC adapters.
But I'm wondering if the mini NES is the USB, like how you charge your phone in the wall. You know what I mean? I'm just curious. That's just curiosity. I guess we'll find out in November.
I was just going to say... Just wait a month.
Yeah, and as far as the games, let's get into that. Now, like we've said, there's about maybe a third of these games that are exclusive on the Japanese version. I mean, some of the ones that are already going to double up, Balloon Fight, Castlevania, Gradius, Ghosts and Goblins, a lot of the kind of the first party games, if you will. Dr. Mario, Excite Bike. Here, let's go over some of the Japanese exclusives. Now... 5 of them, maybe? 1, 2... I'm just trying to count it. 1, 2, 3... 4 or 5 of them are like like even the titles are in Japanese, so I'm not even going to bother. But from what I saw, there was like a sumo fighting game. There was...
Awesome.
Yeah. There was... I think these were mostly fighters. There was one that looked like a side-scroller of some sort, like you're in the jungle. Yep. But as far as games that we're familiar with that are going to be exclusive... Final Fantasy III, which was never really truly released here in the U.S.
Correct.
At least originally, I should say.
Looking forward to playing that. I've never played that one.
No, we're getting the Final Fantasy, our Final Fantasy 1, but the Japanese will have the Final Fantasy 3.
Wasn't Final Fantasy 3 though? The original one, like on NES, it wasn't released. Wasn't it eventually released on some type of compilation?
No, eventually, yeah, like on PlayStation, if anything. So, but I'm talking like the
I think there was.
OG.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it was definitely released. It just wasn't the original. Wasn't released.
Yeah. Now I believe there's a golf game on the mini-NES version. I'm trying to find it.
I don't think so.
I could have sworn there was. But the Japanese version is getting the NES Open Tournament Golf.
Yeah, and of all the games, why is that? I wonder why that one was chosen.
Sports game.
But a sports game, you put baseball and you put football. I mean, those are the go-to sports games.
Maybe that's what they play. I mean, besides baseball, we're getting Tecmo Bowl, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, maybe golf is a bigger thing in Japan.
Possibly.
I don't know.
River City Ransom, I'm a little jealous about.
Yes,
the Japanese
I know.
game
I used to love that game.
Well,
that was a great game. Good old-fashioned, beat 'em up, Double Dragon style.
Yeah, it's also they're getting, which is this game. I love this game, Solomon's Key. Do you remember Solomon's Key?
Oh, good. I'm not the only person because I thought I was the only one that knew that game existed.
No way.
It was funny. I was just thinking. The last time I looked at the list of games on the NES, the mini-NES, I wonder. I would love to see Solomon's Key on this thing. I actually was thinking that. Now it's on the Famicom. And Solomon's
Key is such an underrated game.
Well, yeah, it was. It was insanely difficult. I loved the challenges. I mean, the different levels were always interesting, and trying to figure out how to get, how to get the key and then get to the door. It was just really, it's a very clever game.
And I got news for you. I never really got. I don't know, maybe just a handful of levels in, maybe like 10 or 12. There's just this one level 30-something years later, I just can't beat. I got to go back and check it out.
I got to that point, too, because I didn't own the game. I used to rent it from the video store all the time. Mm-hmm. Video stores, for people who don't know, like there were these locations that used to actually rent these things called VHS tapes and, video games.
And you worked in one.
Yeah, and I did work in one for a little while, which was awesome. But yeah, so Solomon's Key is definitely one I'm really excited to see on this on the Famicom, and I will look forward to playing that incessantly.
All right, so I got one of the sites that you sent me does have a little bit of English translation for the Japanese game, so I'm going to give this a shot. Here we go, folks. I'm going to try and read off the Japanese only games that are going to be on this system, which also is going to run.
My ears are going to bleed.
It's going to run about $60 as well, $59. I think when I did the conversion this morning, $59.01.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, and there's probably no tax over there. Okay,
awesome.
Some of the games here. We got Ye Are Kung Fu. I don't think that's our Kung Fu, to be honest with you. Which I don't know why that's missing on this system for both of them.
Yeah, I know, because that's an NES, right? That's an NES game.
That's an original black box game. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ye Are Kung Fu is not.
Yeah. Atlantis no Nazo. I don't know what that is.
God bless.
Meikai Village. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Bumping Sumo. That sounds fantastic.
Wait, which one's that?
One of the sumo games. Bumping Sumo. It's on the Wikipedia page. I God help you if I know which one that is. I'm assuming that's Supari Uzomo.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the English version of it.
That'll be a fun game to play.
Super Tamashido Luo. I don't know what that is. Oh, here we go. Downtown Nekatesu March Soryuko. No, Soryuke. I'm going to say Soryuke on that one.
I have a feeling somebody from the Japanese consulate is just going to show up.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be arrested here. And then, now, they have Super Mario on the Japanese Famicom. There's Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3. They don't have their Super Mario Brothers 2, which was our Lost Levels. Instead, they have our Super Mario Brothers 2, but they're calling it, or they have called it, Super Mario USA.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I don't know why they wouldn't have put their part, because Lost Levels is a fun game.
Well, I wonder if it's just Well, I mean, if you think about it, they're probably just creating the same, emulator system
Possibly.
for the mini NES and the Famicom. So, and they're just adjusting a few games to make it different.
Possibly. Well, I mean, but there's like 5 or 6 games that are completely different.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like I see
what you're talking about. I got you.
They threw 5 or 6 different games on there, so that there was something different about it.
I got you.
But outside of that, they just kept to what was there for the most part.
And if you can, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. I'll put the link on. Like I said earlier, the Nintendo of Japan put out like a 5-minute press video about all the games, pretty much all of them. And it was pretty, it's pretty interesting to see. And even, I mean, these games are in Japanese. Like, even our game, Mega Man 2 is Rockman 2. So these are the Japanese versions.
Well, they would have to be, considering they're only selling this in Japan.
No, I just figured if they probably, like kind of to your point, maybe just to kind of cut corners, they would have just, if the games, because I can't imagine the games are much different. The only game I saw during that video that had like a drastically different even start title, just besides the Japanese lettering, was Super C, which they actually call Super Contra over there.
Oh, interesting.
And had a really cool opening scene.
Well, and on their website, like, some of them do have English names. Like Mega Man is Rockman.
Yeah, I just said that 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I want to make sure we're... Don't mind us, folks. We're just going to bicker.
It's fine. It's all part of the
yeah,
fun.
Rockman was always Rockman over there. That's we can get into that. Also, on a side note, Prima Games, which is huge with companion books and everything, is putting out a 320-page companion book for the Nintendo NES Classic that will be released in November. I can't even imagine what that's going to look like.
Oh, God. All the money flying out of my pocket.
Yep, pretty much. So
can't wait.
And again, I feel like it, at least press-wise, kind of came out of left field, the mini-Famicom. So there we go.
Very excited about that. Very excited about
the Famicom releases November 10th, 2016 in Japan, and for some reason Australia. I guess Australia had the Famicom. He's south. And then we're getting the next day, November 11th, us and our good friends over in Europe are getting the NES Classic. And that, friends,
I think Japan just has to get it first because, they make these things. So even if it's just a day, they can say we got it first.
It's right in their backyard. So
pretty much.
And with that, that's pretty much the Famicom, the mini Famicom that, again, in my opinion, came out of left field.
Yay! I love surprises.
What? So, and then there's some other things, a little quick, like they're doing, I think, 3 different styles that you can play as, 4:3 aspect ratio, the original CRT, like with the scan lines on the old school.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love the fact that you can do that as a setting, just to as a cool little throwback.
And there's a third one, which I still can't figure out, Pixel Perfect, which they say, like, the game is presented in the original design of the designers, where every pixel is a perfect block. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around what that will look like, and I'm going to have to wait till November to figure it out.
I was just going to say, the good news is you only got to wait a month to find it out, or, they may put something online to show you what they mean by Pixel Perfect.
Month and a half, actually. We're already in October, for crying out loud. Holy cow.
Yes, it is October. Ooh. It is. Yeah, we're getting there. It's time to pull out all the Halloween themed games.
What? You read my mind. That'll be in our production meeting later on.
Yes, it will be.
And with that, this one's gonna be a little bit of a short one. But the mini Famicom, I think
that's okay. I'm sure people are tired of listening to us.
Probably. I think the mini Famicom, though, deserved its time in the sun, just like in the land of the rising sun, just like the mini-NES has.
You're terrible.
I try.
Yeah, don't do comedy.
So with that, folks, we're going to wrap this one up.
That's like your comedy is like the it's like the Virtual Boy.
Wow, you got that one right at the last second. And with that, we're going to wrap it up, folks. Catch us online, follow us everywhere. We'll be back next week, every Monday. Check us out.
All right, take it easy.
Good night, folks.